1935, the Lions win the NFL championship. The Detroit Tigers take the World Series. The Red Wings bring home Lord Stanley's Cup. Joe Louis begins his rise to world domination. This transforms the Motor City into Detroit, City of Champions.
All right, we are off the hoist and back into the water. Detroit City of Champions, the podcast. I'm Jamie Flanagan, along with Charles Avison, the author of a trilogy of books all about 1935. 1935, just an amazing year in sports history in Detroit, especially. 33 championships were won. The Lions, the Tigers, the Red Wings. Joe Louis had an amazing year, and right now, like I said, we're back in the water. And we're talking about Gar Wood. Gar Wood, the Miss America 9 is where we're at currently in the story. Charles and I are breaking it down, talking about everything happening in this episode, continuing where we left off last time. Gar Wood, Detroit City of Champions. It's the podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment wherever you're listening. We appreciate you taking some time to be part of the party here that we have every week, talking about the amazing Detroit stories. So thanks for listening. Follow, subscribe, tell a few friends, a few hundred of your friends if you could. That all helps. And thank you so much for being here.
So Wood gets beat. This is the first heat in a Harmsworth he's ever beat. And we've already talked about the ratcheting up of intensity for this race.
Yeah.
600,000 people come to the Detroit River. These are majority Detroiters, Canadians,
right.
These people that have been used to seeing Wood win every single time.
Right.
And now Wood in the very first race gets straight up beat, straight up head-to-head beaten. Right? Like a boat that came over here to America to challenge Wood, and they beat him in the first race. One of the things so number one is there's the Miss America 8. That's kind of how they refer to that. There's another boat there. There was two boats coming down the river. The Miss America 8 was driven by Gar Wood's brother George, and that boat was completely outclassed.
Right.
It had basically had no chance. And then the Miss America 9, the key thing to take out of what J. Lee Barrett says there is that the boat was porpoising. It was not planing. Right? Because it didn't catch the plane on the back bow.
Okay.
So the main thing is that you want to skim,
sure.
Right? Where the boat's barely touching the water just to let it know that it's still there. Otherwise, it's flying.
Yeah.
In the plane, and so the Miss England 2 planed, and the Miss America 9 did not. It kept hopping on the water across, and you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So as a result, Gar Wood recognizes that this thing had porpoised so badly that they have to rebuild this thing by the next day. The only solution...
Hey, fellas.
I got some bad news.
Call your wives.
Let her know they're not coming home
You're
tonight.
not making it home for dinner.
You're not going to get
or
home for
breakfast.
Dinner. Or lunch. And probably not dinner either, as we're going to find out here in a second.
Oh, my God.
So the entire Miss America 9 in a single night has to be stripped down to the studs.
I get to see him in like some coveralls with his hands on his hips going.
We're going to describe
all right,
it.
Guys, let's rip this thing apart.
Wait till you see what's about to happen in this next quote. This entire boat has got to be completely rebuilt in 24 hours. Like, this is insane. What you're about to hear is insane. Like, if this was just picture, when I read this next quote, I'm going to take a sip of this here in a second, too. When I read this next quote, Imagine what I'm about to, for you, the listener, you, the viewer that's watching this, picture in your mind as I read this next quote that this is a movie, that this is in a movie, okay? That you're watching, like you just saw this race. There's been a hyped up moment to Gar Wood. He loses this race. And I want you to picture in your mind as we read this next quote that this following scene is a scene in a movie, that I'm reading to you a screenplay.
What do we know about Gar? What do we know about Gar and how he treated his staff? I know
you're about to
find
out. All those,
right.
That's going to be answered right here.
Because
those are great questions. You're going to find out.
Is he a nice guy? Is he a taskmaster? Is he a team player? Is he?
I can't believe you're asking these questions because that's one of the major components. Because
that's what I want to know. Is he beating the slaves in Egypt to make the pyramids?
Let me get another splash that old forest. That will tell.
Is he in the trenches with the team with his sleeves rolled up, man to man,
wait till
shoulder to shoulder.
I can't even believe you're asking me this
working
question.
Their butt off.
And
really, because it could go either way.
Yes,
right now,
it totally could.
I don't.
We know nothing about him at this point. As far as
100%
sure. From that role, yeah.
And he's an incredible businessman. He's got trucks,
lavishly,
truckloads of money. So someone who has truckloads and truckloads of money to spend has made it, and fools don't make that kind of money. You don't. It's rare that people luck into that kind of money. So was he a team player or was he a taskmaster?
I honestly can't believe you're asked. It's such a fortuitous It's such a phenomenal question to ask me.
Because as he got out of the boat,
this is not scripted. You are asking me this question without any. This was not indicated by me before the show or after the show that you're asking.
Because this is what I'm visualizing
right now.
for as if it was a screenplay for him losing that race, getting off that boat, stepping off that boat, ripping off those goggles, and going. What's his attitude?
It's got to be rebuilt.
It's got to be rebuilt. But is he like PO'd and angry and shouting, or is he like pulling the team together? So where does it go? Where does it go from here?
That's what I'm saying.
That's why I want to see that.
Wait. All those questions you just asked are about to be answered in this. I'm not going to have to take any liberty with answering that question.
Cool.
J. Lee Barrett's about to answer all of.
J. Lee, man,
and that's why it's
the
so.
Speedboat Kings.
That's why
come through again.
Oh, totally. But you came through because you're asking a question that literally is a fade in towards the quote that I'm about to read you. I mean, you're not going to believe how well your questions are about to be answered. I don't have to say anything to answer that. All right, so I was at, and this is again J. Lee Barrett.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Wood's Boatwell that September night after the first heat. I was curious to know the cause of Wood's trouble. How was it that Wood had been beaten at last? What had happened to Miss America 9? Why was Don able to beat Wood? Who would win the next race? What was Wood doing now to get his boat in shape? Could he get it ready in time? If Don should win one more race, the trophy would go back to England for the first time since 1920. I wanted these questions answered. I went to Greyhaven, Wood's Detroit home on the Detroit River. It was just past midnight in Wood's Boatwell. The yard was floodlighted so the men could work. I was watching the beehive of life that swarmed around the Harmsworth Defender, Miss America 9. 50 staccato sounds pierced my ears at once. Rivets were biting fast into that beautiful mahogany hull that held in its stomach 2,800 horsepower. Men were climbing all over that boat. Mechanics and engineers, riveting, sawing, hammering, bracing. They were springing the hull, which means forcing the bow down and bracing it to a plane. 15 men we counted, the little band that works behind the scenes, the little band that had built this very boat, in fact, all of Wood's boats, in Algonac, the little band that checks every inch of those engines, that keeps the hull strong, balanced to a hair's breadth. Between the Miss America 9 was a fine temperamental instrument of speed, perhaps the most temperamental boat Wood had ever built. It was like a Stradivarius. In fact, it was drawn so fine, so closely balanced that in trials on the smooth water of the Canal Ecart River in Canada, one day before the race, it jumped clear out of the water when Johnson put his hand over the side of the boat. That slight wind resistance annoyed her. He put his hand at the side of the boat and it jumped out of the water. That's how temperamental it was. So he put his hand out of the boat and it jumped clear out of the water. He said that slight wind resistance annoyed her. That's how temperamental that boat was.
Yeah.
So this is why they're like, that's why they got to do all this work. The men were fingering the carburetors, oil lines, gas lines, water lines, everything. Someone was putting a stiffening brace in the hull where the water hits hardest at 100 miles an hour. That hull must hold together. America must keep the trophy. Wood must win. The boat must be ready again by Tuesday afternoon. These things were boring into the brains of these men as they worked together there doggedly, jaws set, determined. They wouldn't fail Wood this time. Yesterday the hull had snapped. It couldn't take all the power of those engines. The forward plane rode too high. It porpoised. They thrilled us as we sat there watching. Wood's loyal band. They'd die for him. Sleep didn't mean a thing to them as long as the Miss Americas were not ready. In Algonac, they call these boats our Miss Americas, and it is well they should. The whole town for years has helped and build these boats. Men of the town have worked day and night on them. Mothers and wives say nothing. It was all right as long as it was for Gar Wood, for Algonac, for America. And here they were again, the same little loyal band, getting the Miss America 9 ready for the second race. All through the night they worked, driven on by black coffee prepared by Mrs. Wood, Gar's wife. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Wood himself came out to the yard, short, thin, his shock of white hair blowing, his shirt sleeves rolling to his elbows, his collar flung open at the neck. He walked briskly over to his boat, climbed in, and began fingering the vital parts of those engines and superchargers. The sun came up, finally, bright and hot, but that didn't stop these men. The work went on all through the day. On Tuesday at 4:45 p.m., just 15 minutes before the starting gun of the race, the last mechanic climbed, tired, out of the hull. Miss America 9 was ready. At least they thought so. But just then, Orland Johnson noticed a leak in the gasoline tank. 15 minutes left in the gas tank leaking. Wood hurried to the telephone to call the race committee, Edenburn and Chapman. Ask Don if I can have another 45 minutes, he said. We can't get ready by 5 o'clock. My gas tank is leaking. No, was Don's answer. Wood has 2 boats. Let him send one of them on. I am ready. If he's not here at 5 o'clock, I'll go on without him. Wood waited, thought a moment. That crack in his gas tank was like a deep gash into the heart of his boat. Then he said, all right, I'll be there. I won't quit now. Tell Don I won't quit. Tell him I'll lead him into that first turn. Now, there was only one thing for Wood to do. Solder the tank as it was, full of high explosive fuel. They didn't have time to drain and refill. It takes about 2.5 days to take the tanks out of the boat and install them again. It was dangerous business. There was his beautiful home of Georgian stone, his yacht, his seaplane, his boat well, his men. An explosion? Well, he didn't want to think about that. John Brewer, one of Wood's men, crawled under the hatches of the Ninth to loosen the saddles that hold the fuel tank in place. In a few minutes, he was dragged out, unconscious from the fumes. Frank Calvilage, a Packard man, crawled under. They didn't care, these men. They wouldn't quit either. They had risked too much now. Wood himself took the soldering iron and sat on the deck, sealing the gash in his fuel tank. You could hear the solder iron sizzle when it touched the leaking benzol. Johnson walked back and wired the teddy bears more securely to the engines.
Important stuff.
What a great if they're going to blow,
details,
at least they're not
man.
Vance Smith kept handing hot solder irons to Wood. All was silent. You could only hear the dangerous sizzling of the solder iron Wood held in his hand. At the 5-minute gun, meaning the disc from the race is about to start, at the 5 minutes, the race is all the crowd's watching the disc drop. They have no idea what's going on.
Right.
They're over here soldering a benzol gasoline tank with fire on it, friggin' the most explosive gasoline that's ever been invented. At the 5-minute gun, George Wood and Vance Smith left Wood's boat well with the Miss America 8. As they were leaving, Wood, still soldering the fuel tank, called out to them, I don't know whether we'll be with you fellows or not, but we'll try. The tank was soldered. Barely 3 minutes were left to warm up those engines and get to the starting line. Wood and Johnson threw on their helmets and life preservers, packed their ears with batting to deaden the roar of the engines, smeared their faces with heavy grease to protect their skin from the exhaust flames, put on their goggles and jumped into the cockpit. Johnson started the engines, and down the river they flew, headed straight for the line. Wood could see Don's white boat making the upper turn of the course before dashing to the line. He nudged Johnson. That meant more throttle. Johnson responded, gradually. In a split moment, it seemed they were right beside Don, aiming for the line. Wood was dead sure he was going to beat Don to the line and keep inside the course near the buoys. He signaled Johnson for open throttle. The boat shot ahead. Both boats, throttles open, roared across the line. Wood in the lead, on the inside, near the buoys. Both boats had beaten the starting gun. Wood by 9.3 seconds, Don by 7.26 seconds. When a boat goes across the line 5 seconds or less ahead of the gun, it is penalized. If it goes across over 5 seconds ahead of the gun, it is automatically disqualified. These are Harmsworth rules, English rules, world rules. Both boats were disqualified. But neither Don nor Wood knew this. Johnson knew. He had his orders from Wood before they left. No matter what happens, he had told Johnson, keep ahead of Don. And so both boats kept going, throttles open, into the first turn. Wood spun his boat around the 2 westerly buoys like a top, still in the lead and gaining on Don every second. Around the second westerly buoy, Wood spread wide. Don's boat, after rounding the same buoy, desperately trying to catch Wood, scudded suddenly out of control. Its bow shot up, listing a trifle, and turned a complete turtle with its engine screaming, dove, and sank. Don and his men were thrown clear, uninjured. Wood kept going, not knowing what had happened. As he was completing the first lap and charging down again toward the judges' stand, he was flagged off the course, disqualified. Wood's second entry, Miss America 8, driven by George Wood, was following far, far behind the other 2 boats. When George noticed that both boats ahead of him were out of the race, he slowed down, almost stopped, not knowing what to do. Wood, seeing this from across the river, jumped on the bow of the ninth and waved frantically to George Van Smith to keep going, to complete the race. The entire course was now swarming with moving craft rushing to the spot where Don had catapulted. The government cutters and race officials were powerless to keep the course clear for Miss America 8, but George Wood guided his boat through the maze of watercraft and completed the race.
Oh. All right. So how does this
What
this
a
work?
story.
Oh my God.
I mean, the 15 minutes before the race, the gas tank is leaking, and it takes 2.5 days to do it safely, or they can do it in 15 minutes if they solder it while it's full of gas.
If I take a ride on this atomic bomb.
Yeah, and he's going, well, my whole house is here, my family's here. And then the funny part is where Orland Johnson goes, I better wrap these bears tighter to the steering wheel, because if this thing blows up, where those bears are going to get killed, you know?
Holy crap.
I mean, could you imagine if this is a movie?
Oh, yeah.
This is the greatest story you've ever heard.
This is so much tension.
This is incredible.
And the soldering irons of the day were like, they had, it wasn't
shooting
like a
sparks.
Yeah.
And
oh my God.
I mean, yeah. It's heating metal to patch metal. That's what they do.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and so they got to first of all they got to rebuild the boat. That's a story into itself. They got to tear the boat apart, get the plane so it readjusts.
All right, we're ready. Let's go. Tank is leaking.
Oh, by the way, the gas tank's leaking. Oh, well, they're like, hey, I need another 45 minutes at least. And like, you ain't got it. Because they want to win.
Yeah.
They want to win. It wouldn't won a few races when other boats had technical problems. They were holding him to the same. He was like, you got another boat? Send that one.
Oh.
Mr. Moneybags, we got one boat.
Yeah.
You got two. Oh, what, one of your boats isn't working, so you can't race with just one? You know?
So now how does that work? And Chris said that's the most gripping than any fiction he's ever
There's
read.
nothing out there. Thank you, Chris. I'm glad. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I say this Gar Wood story is my favorite story from all the City of Champions. This is the most. You can't
talk about grit.
It's unbelievable.
And teamwork and and then it's the American entrepreneur against the entire British monarchy,
and to answer
the entire
your question,
British Empire.
And to answer your question about what it was, how these guys feel about working for Wood, they would die for him.
They worked overnight.
They almost did. They could have died for him.
And his wife's bringing him coffee overnight.
Yeah.
Gar was getting a nap.
Yeah.
So he could race the next day. He came out at 3 a.m, rolled up his sleeves, and he started welding because it was the most dangerous job out there, and he jumped in to do it.
Yeah, in the whole town.
That's a leader.
The whole town of Algonac, he says right there. They say right there. In Algonac, they call these boats our Miss Americas.
Yeah.
And it's they should.
Yep.
The whole town for years has helped build these boats. Men of the town have worked day and night on them. Mothers and wives say nothing. It was all right as long as it was for Gar Wood, for Algonac, for America.
Mm-hmm.
This ties into the very heartbeat of who we are, like as a country, man.
Yeah.
This is like they're like for America. The boat's called Miss America, and it's going against Miss England 2.
Right.
It's a Miss America 9 going against a Miss England 2, and it's defending it on the Detroit River. Potentially, this is what brings up the sort of the case I wanted to make. The largest crowd in the history of any sporting event is there to watch this drama.
I was trying to pull up some numbers of the Detroit hydroplanes, and they were talking about a massive attendance in '76, and it was only 500,000.
Well, I can't believe that. That's a huge number too, because the numbers.
And this is like over 600,000.
This is over 600,000, and we're going to see in the next race, in a couple races forward, there's going to be double this. This is in this race alone. You could make a case if you just do a Google search. Before I did the show, I wanted to take a quick look. I didn't even put this in the book, but like the largest spectator events in sporting history. Right, like that's not listed. That's a good find. I didn't know that the Gold Cup races and that had that.
Yeah.
But anyways, the Guinness Book of World Record for the largest attending at a sporting event. That's Guinness Book of World Record, literally quotation marks, largest attendance at a sporting event. What they said.
Oh, that was.
What's that?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, there actually is. I mean, I looked it up online.
Yeah,
This is what Google's. This is Guinness Book of World Records.com.
Okay.
And it says largest attendance at a sporting event, and they list the Tour de France, at 12 million people, but that was over the course of 3 weeks. So if you break that up over
Right,
21 days, so we're talking about a singular day event, right? So over the course of 3 weeks, so that's 21 days. So 12 million divided by 21 days, it's an average of 571,428.5 people. So
And
that's still underneath.
Here's the thing. The Miss US winner, Gold Cup Thriller in 76. But here's the caveat on it. Before the post-World War II record crowd.
Yeah.
So it's a post-World War II record,
Yeah.
which means there was a record before World War II, which was bigger than this. And so why is this a record?
That's what I'm saying. Well, because
why is this a record?
Why is this story forgotten?
Yeah.
Why is the City of Champions thing marginalized
all of
into
a
the
sudden,
dustbin of history?
Charles, we were talking about that. I think we were talking about this before we got on
it was
the
like,
air.
all that stuff that happened before the war, that was ancient times.
Because we were talking about Champions Day and wanting to celebrate Champions Day. And we got poo-pooed a little bit. I tried calling the historical museum to do something.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, well, we just changed a couple of staff members, so we're not doing anything.
They don't have a clue.
Oh, it's like, hey, guess what?
They don't have a clue.
History's happening, people.
Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things. I hate to sit here and bash people, but this is and I was telling you before
we're going to cancel Christmas.
Yeah, I was telling you before the show. Welcome to this. You now see what I have been dealing with for 12 years.
Right,
you are now part of it. You are part of the story of the City of Champions project, Jamie.
Yeah,
you're part of this.
It's like this record, and with the caveat right on it, post World War II record of 500,000 fans.
This is what we got to deal with. We got to deal with the fact that we're just trying to find a venue to do a broadcast for the show. We've been doing historical museum things for the last however many years. And that's, not to beat that particular horse.
Right,
what I'm saying is that this stuff that happened in Detroit is some of the most amazing things that's ever been done in not just sports history, but a city that doesn't celebrate these events is insane.
Mm-hmm,
the marketing power, the value that comes out of these stories in the Champions Day. There's nobody else doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody. And we're trying to get to use the front lobby of the historical museum to broadcast a show. And they're like, well, we're changing staff. We can't
and it
really
was
do
funny
anything.
last year when we did the Champions Day broadcast. We walked in and they were like, two people working the front counter. And we're like, hey, hi, we're here to do the Champions Day broadcast.
Well, they've been great in years past, but
and
this
they're
year
like,
was
what?
just like,
no, and they were like, what? And they were like, oh, yeah, no, and it was like, oh, go ahead. And the museum, it was a quiet day. It was a Sunday.
It was nice. It was a nice spring sunny day.
They were like, oh, go ahead, and they just let us go, and we're like, we could have done anything we wanted. We could have tried on some of the clothes or what.
Yeah, it's
we could have
ghost town.
Taken some of those vintage cars for a ride.
Yeah,
they just kind of cut us loose in there on our own. I'm like, are you people? You don't.
Well, that's what's so striking about this year when we asked to basically do the same thing. They're like, well, we're it's like somebody going, well, I'm busy
and what I wanted
today,
to do is
we're busy that day. Giving us some crap.
But this story is just so amazing. Something else is amazing. What I wanted to do for Champions Day was. But it was kind of rushed at this point. It's available now. Chris made this. Chris is an avid participant.
Chris has been doing a ton of work. Chris, and I want
show.
to mention too, Chris is the one, just to make sure the record is totally square.
He's making our YouTube page looking good.
Chris was the one that suggested starting a Wikipedia page for Champions Day.
Mm-hmm.
Chris was the one that came to me and said, well, you need a Champions Day Wikipedia page. Like we worked together to put I gave him some information to put on there, but Chris is the one that really did all. I don't even know how to start a Wikipedia page. He's the one that did it. And years ago, there was an interview where basically I got quoted for a magazine article where basically I was like, yeah, I started a Wikipedia page, and I just want to make sure that Chris, I'm going to be probably
saying
kind of
a dick move, Charles.
Well, I mean,
it wasn't with you. I'm messing with you. Well, you told me you felt guilty about that, and I'm busting your chops about it.
Well, that's fine, and I deserve it. I deserve it. But here's the thing:
I love that you're giving him props. Right
I'm going to continue to do so to make sure that record is square, because he's done a ton of work on the City of Champions project. He's an avid. He's been bitten by the bug of City of Champions. He's been helping. He's been doing all the thumbnails. He was his idea for the thumbnails.
He's
been doing a ton of work.
You and he got together and created this really cool crest.
Well, Chris was the one that he's the one
he's
that
got a background in making this coat of arms.
Absolutely, he knows all the terminology and the language.
I'm all about. I got a tattoo of my family's coat of arms. You can't see it. there.
Your next
Ready for
tat's
the
going to be
gun
the
show.
City of Champions
It
crest.
is
Is it really?
Yeah. I will totally.
That's so
I'll totally
awesome,
do it.
dude.
Once we get, I don't know, I'll put some.
Well, if you
number
look
on
at if anybody listening or watching the up in the upper right hand corner, the thumbnail for the videos that we post is
on
on the YouTube is the little crest that says the episode number underneath it. Mm-hmm. And but yeah, Chris is one. Yeah, Chris was one that
you guys.
I started after it was Chris is the one that took the lead on that entire thing. He's the one that suggested it. He's the one that already started doing it on his own. He's the one that started doing it all. I brought a couple ideas to it. We kind of bounced ideas back and forth.
What I wanted to do,
he gets 99% of the credit.
It's like it's a day late and a dollar short. But for Champions Day, I don't know. Maybe we could do it on Monday. I don't know. If you got time on Monday,
man. Especially if we're doing something at the front of Miss America 10.
No, we're not in front of the Miss America, but just do a short episode in for Champions Day on Champions Day.
What we just talked about to recap a little bit.
No, let's just do the crest on Champions Day.
What do you mean, like talk about it?
Yeah, just do a short mini-sode on the crest.
I'll do whatever. It's Champions Day, man.
We'll bring Chris
whatever.
on. So on the 18th, we'll just do something with Chris. We're talking.
Well, we were also talking about doing somewhere we did kind of a recap this year about all the episodes we've done thus far.
Yeah. But I would
maybe I can get Tom to come on.
We'll just do a short one when we go to Miss America. Yeah, invite Tom, and if Chris wants to come join us.
Well, no, I'm talking about for the recap.
Oh, yeah, for the recap
for for Champions Day. Like we could do a recap of all the episodes that we've already been doing.
We could do that. I mean, but it's like Monday. It's already Thursday.
I know,
so
but it doesn't take any planning for us to do a recap. We're just going to be talking about it.
All right.
So I mean, anyways,
we could do more of this planning off air, but
yeah.
So anyway, we just want to say thanks to Chris for that, and
well, just to add something to that Wikipedia thing is that Wikipedia page. He was absolutely right. If anybody that's listening to this, go look up Champions Day and click on the Wikipedia page. And look when we first started that thing, it was relatively small. It's
grown.
It's grown. It's like an entire resource to Champions Day. And I learned so much from it. I mean, I learned from the Wikipedia page because what it does is every time one of these libraries puts all of their archives online, there might be a mention of Champions Day from somewhere out in Iowa from 1936 in their newspaper, and it in the Wikipedia page grabs that article, cites it, links it to the article to the site, and you can read about it. Like it grows like by itself. It's crazy.
All right, I got lost though. We got lost. So the first race, we lost.
Yeah, and the second one
in the first heat, we lost. So Kaye Don beat us fair and square.
Fair and square
in that first one. So we rebuilt the boat. Jumped out there, flying like bat out of Parma.
But they were
the
disqualified.
last second, and they both
were disqualified. Yes, and
so,
George Wood won the race.
So now how does this work? Is that like Team America? So you have two Team America
boats? Well, George
boats?
Wood, wins the race, and so
it's because you have to win 2 out of 3, right?
Yeah.
So. Does that mean George has to win the third race,
or
does that mean America has to win the third race?
Honestly, I can't answer that question.
What happened on the third? Was there a third heat?
There was not because Kaye Don's boat was destroyed in the crash.
Well, sucks for you. You got 5 minutes, bitch.
That's what happened.
Get your boat out here.
That's what happened.
You got a car. Put chitty chitty bang bang that mofo and float on out here.
Yes. So
like he did to Gar. Come on, man.
That's what happened. And that's what Gar put it to him. Like, you don't got more than a day to build your boat.
Yeah.
The same thing happened.
You got 24 hours.
So it kind of karma's a bitch.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
but there was no third heat.
There was no third heat.
So how does this
resolve? I take it back. I don't honestly I'm not the way that it's written, I don't know the details of that.
Okay,
I can't say
what happens to the Harmsworth?
Gar Wood was credited for winning the Harmsworth Trophy in 1930.
Fair play.
So I don't know what happened. The third day, it might have just been a race between the two boats, and somehow because Gar Wood. Maybe I got to take another look, but maybe Gar Wood drove the 8 and then got credit for the win. But whatever it was, Gar Wood retained the Harmsworth for another year.
All right.
And the Miss England
because
so I don't know the details of that. He kind of he says right in there, he says Gar Wood ended up winning the Harmsworth.
Okay.
Kaye Don went home and they were all mad because
take your broken ass boat and go home.
Exactly. Yes. And so, but here's the thing: is that this exact moment. This is when England, believed that they were about to win this thing.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, but here's the thing: what they did was they accused Gar Wood of arranging the second day where he basically baited Kaye Don to cross the line and get disqualified with his boat, so that Gar Wood's second boat would win the race. And so that's when they started calling him the Gray Fox of Algonac. So that's
where the nickname came in.
That's where, from my understanding, that's where it comes in.
That is foxy.
Yeah, it is. And so they call it. And so they were.
And hey, guess what? It worked.
It worked.
Hey, guess what?
We're about winning.
Guess what, British Empire?
Yeah. So they were calling this the Yankee trick.
Take those sour lemons and go make some lemonade.
Yeah, and so here's the thing: is so all of the escalation towards this race.
We should not record for over an hour because we get saucy after an hour.
We're good. But here's the thing: so all the sort of escalation that led up to this race now, now Kaye Don gets to go home back to England. And all they can say is,
of shame. He's got his shoes in his
hand.
No,
but here's the thing: is he gets to say we didn't get our boat. We had a superior boat.
Yeah. We won that first heat.
We won the first heat fair and square. The second one we got jobbed. We got totally jobbed.
Yep.
And there was a Yankee trick pulled on us. We were trying to keep up with Gar Wood.
If I could only have a few more million pounds to build another boat.
Well, so what it does is they're saying they got basically cheated.
Yeah.
That Gar Wood set it up so that they knew that he knew he had an inferior boat, which technically he probably did. I mean, the first boat was pounding on him.
Hey, America.
There you go, America. He's got
That's it.
So, but anyways, and so what this?
Take them red coats.
So Wood actually defended the charges. Wood actually is defending the fact that they're saying he basically pulled some dirty trick to win the race. And so this is what Wood actually says. This is out of Speedboat Kings. So he says, Wood was amazed at the charges. He said, "Do you think we're crazy enough to risk soldering a loaded gas tank only to disqualify ourselves? Besides, if George," meaning George Wood, pilot of the 8th, "knew anything about a plot, why didn't he know what to do when he saw us out of the race? Why did he keep going? If we had plotted for the 8th to lay back and win the race, why did George stop over there past the yacht club until he saw me motioning like a madman to go on? Go on, for God's sake, go on. Besides," he said, "no American need apologize to the world for these boats of mine. They're as good as any boats built and just as fast. I'll prove it. I will. I'll prove it." So that sets the stage. That, of course, sets the stage for the following year's Harmsworth.
You ready,
and the
boys?
boats are going to get bigger.
Go build another boat,
and there's going to
buddy.
be, and a little teaser, there's not going to be a Miss England 2. There's not going to be a Miss America 9. Those numbers are going to +1.
We're all right.
There's going to be a titanic struggle for supremacy of speed on water. In this race here, the next race, this is what I've been trying to get up to.
And we finally get to Miss America 10.
Miss America 10.
Which is the boat we're going to get. Actually, we're going to go and hang out. I'm going on Tuesday.
I want to do it. If we could.
If you want to come with me, it's 3 o'clock. I got an appointment at 3 o'clock.
Can we do a show there for me?
Yeah.
Dude, if we could do a show about the Miss America 10 in front of the Miss America 10, that's
we might do it inside the Miss America 10.
If we could sit in the cockpit, that's like a dream, dude. That's like to broadcast inside the Miss America 10.
This Renee woman likes me, and she was really, really sweet. And it's not out of it's the bourbon talking, but we're in.
Dude, if we can film
if they let us loose like they let us loose in the historical museum.
Why wouldn't they? It's a boat, man. When was the last time somebody went to go film?
But like when we were in the historical museum, they were like, we were just there and nobody was around. And we were like, they're like, oh, go do whatever you want, wherever you want. We could have done, if there was because there was a car like right there. It had nothing to do with the City of Champions story. All the City of Champions story was behind the glass and stuff we were talking about last time. But we could have jumped in that car if we were like, lunatics.
Yeah. Like Sam had to run the place, like take photos.
I know. If anybody, it was actually a pretty fun video.
What, the Champions Day?
Yeah,
it was awesome. I had a great day that day.
If you're listening to the podcast, that's one to go and check out.
Champions Day last year was great.
Because we talked all about the plaque, and Gar Wood is prominently represented on the plaque.
And we were sitting right in front of it
and
all day.
It's right there. And there's an amazing story about the plaque and how it was lost and how it was found.
There's a replica.
Go back to that
there's
episode.
A replica Miss America 10 in their glass case right next to the plaque.
Yes. So it's definitely something you want to check out. And it was fun just because we're doing like different camera angles and stuff. So
yeah, Sam had different, like, we're like, Sam's reporting from outside. In his room, she was taking shots outside. Like, we had a live feed.
I was hanging with Sam one
Yeah,
time.
we had a live feed from outside the building, inside the building. We had all kinds of different camera angles. So
it was fun. So that's one that's a good visual to check out.
So if we get to talk about, I mean, think about like the.
I'm going there on Tuesday, so
I'll broadcast an early episode. It's Champions Day.
Yeah.
In the fact, like, dude, that is gonna be one of the most. If we broadcast there for like our Champions Day episode, I mean, really, it's the day after because Champions Day is Monday.
Yeah.
But if we're broadcasting, I mean, the day after that works. There's nobody else celebrating, so we make up the rules as we go, right?
Yeah.
But you know, but what I'm saying is, talk about this as a epic Champions Day follow up. You know, for this year's Champions Day. We're doing an episode about the Miss America 10 in perfect sequence with the show that we're currently on. If we're sitting in the cockpit of the Miss America 10,
I know. I'm working on it.
That's the most epic, dude. There should be 1 million followers. There should be 1 million watchers on that, dude.
Working on
So like
that.
our small band of diehard fan or show followers. Should be like, this should be the most anticipated show of the year, dude.
It is. Well, and I'm looking forward to the next story. But if we're in front of it or on the boat, we're going to be near the boat.
Dude, I want to be in the
boat for one of the next couple of episodes.
I want to be in the boat.
For sure.
I got to be in the boat.
And
we can't just be sitting next. I mean, we could start out maybe we can get in the boat. Dude, I want to be in the boat, man. It's like a freaking 4-ton mahogany wood thing.
What harm could we do?
It can take the stress of us hanging out in the boat.
Here's what
we might
do.
have to have flasks.
No.
We might have to have flasks, like leather flasks or something, so we don't have glass in the boat and stuff.
What we have to do is dress up like teddy bears.
No, I'm
we
not
get
doing
two
that.
big teddy bear outfits.
I'm not doing that. Sorry.
Totally. I'm getting two big
not
teddy
me.
bears.
You can do
okay.
one teddy bear.
All right, that's really the bourbon talk.
Yeah.
All right.
I was gonna say, you can get a shirt made with a couple teddy bears on it or something.
All right.
But that's
available at wearingfunny.com.
We're not. You're taking it a little bit too far on that.
All right, I was being silly.
Yeah.
Charles, I'm having so much fun. All the people we hanging out with doing this, Tom. We gotta have Tom.
I talked to Tom
out.
the other day, man. I talked to him the other day. He's got something. There's something going on in Portsmouth December 4th.
We gotta have Tom come
how
when
about
we
this?
do because that's the Packard plant is closer to where Tom lives.
Yeah.
So he's got to come over to the Packard plant when we do that. And Chris is like such a good friend of the show.
He lives in Grand Rapids area.
Chris, yeah. If you want to, when we plan the, if you want to come and hang out while we do the Miss America from the Miss America, you can do that. Anybody actually who wants to come because it's a museum. It's
but just to
the
say
public.
too is that Tom got a call from Portsmouth, Ohio. Saying that they were telling him to like save the date for something.
Cool.
And so we don't know what that means. We don't know what that means, but Tom was super excited about it. He was like, I don't know what December 4th is in Portsmouth, but they're saying save the date. He said, which is like rare for them to call him because Tom's got all these connects, like some of the people we've had on the show have been from Portsmouth.
All right.
So so anyways, I don't know what that means, but maybe there's something cool we could do down there for a show on December 4th. I don't know.
All right. So more coming up. Like, subscribe. Thank you for
the stage
coming
is
along.
set for the most epic. I mean, I'm gonna spoiler alert. There's about to be a rematch of of these two.
What year was this in? This was.
We talked about 1930. We're heading into 1931.
So I mean, we're not even to 35.
We're not to 35.
So I mean, he wins in 35, but this is a pretty stiff competition all the way up to 35.
Just another little spoiler alert is that the 35 is not the most epic races are what we're sort of talking about right now. Mm-hmm. By the time of 35 comes, he's
everybody else gave up again
for the most part. Yes. So
I love, but that's so much the story.
Exactly. But that's the thing is like
that's so much the story of Gar Wood.
Between the era of the Tigers. Between the era of the Tigers in 1909 to with 1907 and 1909 with Ty Cobb,
but
up until like Cobb left Detroit in 1924.
Right now, this is the only thing interesting in Detroit.
At this time, it's it. Gar Wood is Detroit sports.
This is Detroit City football.
Is Detroit sports.
DCFC.
Yes.
This is the only thing interesting happening in Detroit.
Yes, Gar Wood in the 20s and 30s was the only.
This is the Maroon Mob here.
So from the Ty Cobb, the Ty Cobb era was 1905 to 1924. Once Ty Cobb left the Tigers were just either mediocre or terrible from 1925 all the way through 1933. There was nothing going on with the Tigers. The NFL tried 3 times to establish a team in Detroit, failed all 3 times, so there was no NFL. The Detroit hockey organization, the Detroit franchise, moved to Detroit in 1926. They changed their name 3 times in 5 years.
Yep.
They did not become the Red Wings until the 30,
so right
32,
now,
33.
this is a wasteland.
Yeah, so there's nothing going on. Even when they became the Red Wings, they were uninteresting. They were third. They were just some obscure Canadian sport. It wasn't even really until 35 that the city really started gravitating towards hockey. So that's what I'm saying. Like in the 20s and 30s, Detroit sports was Gar Wood, and these were the stories that was going on.
And there are 600,000 people lining the shores of Belle Isle and the Detroit River to watch this happen.
Yes,
'cause I've been there, and I've been there a lot of times, watching the boat races, and man, I know the feeling. It's like, did you go to the boat?
I've never been to the boat race, but
Oh
I
my
heard
God.
they were amazing.
Oh my God, they're always it's a
Yeah.
riot. I actually got to go through the pits a couple of times.
Really?
I got because I teach high school journalism, and I don't know how I forget how it's another teacher at a middle school volunteered, and he was able to get us passes. And so I brought kids from about six different schools, video broadcast kids, and we got into the pits, and they were interviewing drivers, and they did great little news packages interviewing. But we were in the pits and talking to the drivers, and it was good. It was fun.
But see, maybe these are the kind of.
But
things,
then I've been to the Drunk Fest boat race stuff
what
too.
I'm saying is,
Fun
like,
stuff.
These kind of stories of talking about where the boat races came from, and why that Detroit became synonymous with the boat races.
Yeah,
maybe with like the resurrection of these stories and the connection with the past, with the present of the boat races. Maybe we can revive these type of things. You know what I mean? Because from my understanding, they're not even running them anymore.
Yeah, well, it kind of pooped out.
It was just a couple.
2018
yeah, it was
COVID.
with the COVID. It was 2020 with the COVID. That's my understanding. Is when they tried.
2018 was the last one they
ran.
Sponsorship
Sponsorship and all these other things. Maybe there's like a UWM that wants to get involved with this.
That's
it. You know what I mean? Like, but that's what I'm saying. Like, but like I say, all of this stuff is it's like, well, it's the history of Detroit. Yeah. But this is the genesis of Detroit sports. This is why, to this day,
we want to bridge the gap.
We are so diehard fans of our teams. Why we have such a passion towards these teams. It all stems from these different eras and from these incredible stories that built the fan base that carried on to this day.
Right. So that's funny because I just a little shout out talking to some guys over in England this week, and they do a podcast called The Roar of the Lions. It's the RO.
We got English fans,
The Roar of the Lions, UK. They were interviewed on a Deadline Detroit, and I was like, wow, and I checked them out in their podcast. I was like, I talked to them. We're going to do a little crossover stuff with them.
Yeah.
But they're in England, and they love the Lions. I'm like, hey, guys, you know why Detroit still puts up with all the Lions and all their shenanigans? And the thing is, they like American football. One of the cats played American football at their college.
Yeah,
in
I
England.
Played American football in Scotland.
So,
I want to know what team they played. I'd love to talk to them because I played for the Edinburgh Wolves. In Edinburgh, Scotland.
So he was playing, and they were like, well, we want to look at a team. It's like, well, what team is an underdog? And it was the year that the Lions went 0-16 or 0-20
that's
or
awesome.
whatever the
so
hell it was.
A team that was gone.
And they were like, listen. And then they started looking at the story of Detroit and just like the current story of Detroit, and they're like, holy crap, Barry Sanders, Billy Sims, Megatron. It's like, and it's a couple of their Slay, big play Slay.
Yeah,
they like
Slay,
these new guys. And they're like, they're fans.
Well, I'm a diehard of the Lions right now. I love the direction the team's going. I think they're absolutely
they're like super positive about the Lions.
I am too.
I mean, they're not cheerleaders by any stretch of the imagination. They're critical when they need to be
I'd love to talk to them anyways. Yeah,
but it's funny. And I said, hey, and I messaged them. I'm like, I like your podcast. What's interesting is why Detroit puts up with all the horse poop we got to put up with right now, is because it's so ingrained culturally, in the city from 1935. Here's the story of the Lions, and I sent them a link to the playlist, to the Lions playlist.
I'm proud of you though, Jamie. Yeah. When you were telling me about this before the show.
So they were cool. They're cool cats, though.
But I'm proud of you because the way that you were telling me about this before the show, and the way you talk to them. You know what I mean? Like when we started this show, you knew nothing about it. I mean,
No,
you knew the basic framework of the story. You knew the basic framework. But your evolution of understanding all this different stuff, and I even said it early on. I was like, you are so lucky because your first understanding of sports is the City of Champions season, which is the greatest season ever. They're not all like this, my friend. They're not all like this.
No.
So your first sort of exposure to how cool sports can be comes from the greatest season that ever took place on American soil. So you're rooted in it, and the way you talk to me, you're like, hey, you know why this is the case, and I'm proud of you because you're really you're hitting them with it.
So somebody that just liked the show, his name's Gareth. So I'm gonna guess he might be
That's my boy Gig.
Is it
coming live from England?
Okay,
yeah, he's listening live in England right now.
Fair play. So, all right, so there you go. So if you're listening wherever on either side of the pond,
we're international, bro. We're international.
Going nationwide.
We're international followers.
All right, fair play. Subscribe, leave a comment. No, appreciate it. So more fun coming up.
We got some cool stuff. We're broadcasting from the Miss America 10.
We are.
It's on
we may be in front of it.
No, dude, this is on my bucket list.
I'm not sure.
Dude. I don't think you understand. I'm not sitting out front of the Miss America 10. If we are near the Miss America 10, I'm sitting in the Miss America 10. All right, you don't understand how much of a bucket list this is.
Renee likes me, but I'm not sure how much she likes me. We'll see.
Come on, it's a 2-ton mahogany Philippine mahogany boat, dude. We're not gonna harm anything.
Here's what I'm saying: if you were dressed in a big fluffy bear costume,
it's not.
There's no way you could scratch anything.
That's not happening. That's a no go.
You're
situation.
in a big bear costume.
No, it's not happening. I don't do that kind of thing. I don't do that kind of thing, man. But it sounds to me like you got a little charmer to some extent.
So yeah, she's great. I can't wait to meet her on Tuesday, and then we'll plan and we'll plot.
Well, the thing is, we could help turn that boat into
an attraction, to a destination.
Yeah.
So here's the other thing.
Our show might be small now. I'll self-admit it. Our show is small. We don't have a ton of watchers, but you know what? Every show starts small. There's an old saying I actually quoted in my first book as the sort of lead-in quote of my book. Everything starts small. Everything starts small. It doesn't matter how big anything is today. It all started small. Mm-hmm. And yes, we don't have a ton of people watching or whatever like this. But at some point in time, who's to say that this isn't that people aren't going back listening to the show and be like, dude, it is on my list. I've got to see the Miss America 10. Mm-hmm. Especially when we're on there, we're gonna be like, this is gonna be an experience for me, man. It's like Disneyland to me as a kid or something.
So no, I would like when they're the Lions are on Monday Night Football, and they go through the city and they show clips of this and that, and they'll show a Pistons logo, they'll show a Tigers logo, and they'll show the Joe Louis fist, and they should show a clip of the freaking Miss America 10. It's right bloody there.
I know.
And it's a huge part of sports.
But
I'm not even talking on the Ocho.
Yeah. I'm talking about this is
not ESPN the Ocho. This should be primetime.
I just want to read
this is a primetime story.
Well, I just want to look at to throw a couple things, a couple facts I didn't really go through here. Is that the Guinness Book of World Record, and we mentioned this, in the Guinness Book of World Record, the quote unquote largest attendance at a sporting event was the Tour de France in 2012. Mm-hmm. 12 million people over 3 weeks. Yeah. Not 1 day. 3 weeks. Yeah. So 12 million divided by 21 days, which is 3 weeks, equals 571,428 fans. That's not 600,000.
There was over 600,000.
Over 600,000. That's the Guinness Book of World Records.
What is 1 day attendance?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They didn't have that.
What is 1 day attendance?
It wasn't on there. So that's what I'm saying. So the largest event they said, I'm just listing off what they said on
the
there.
Fire
12
Festival.
million.
I think they had more at the Fire Festival.
What I'm trying to say though is that according to the Guinness Book of Records, Guinness Book of World Records, the largest attendance at a sporting event divided over 3 weeks by day to day is does not equal what happened at 600,000 for this event.
Right.
And then a couple other quick facts. There's a SeatGeek, which is a ticket salesman, from a 2017 article. They mentioned number one of a top 5 largest attendance ever was a WCW wrestling event in of all places, North Korea, Pyongyang in North Korea, 190,000.
Yep.
The Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the 250,000 seats at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They mention a USA Today article, which I got basically from Wikipedia, mentions the largest crowd at this 250,000 seat venue. It was 350,000 people in a single day for the Indy 500. Okay, so in according to the Washington Post, this is straight from the Washington Post. The Indy 500 is the largest single day sporting event in the world.
And how many people?
350,000 people was the largest day they ever had, because the venue seats 250,000.
76 Gold Cup, right? The precursor
Yes.
to well, I mean, because
Yeah,
Gar ran the Gold Cup too.
Yes.
So 76 Gold Cup. In 1976, there were over 500,000 fans.
Well, here's what I'm saying is that I'm listing off all these different sites I was looking at real
and there
quick.
was over 600,000.
And none of these sites mention that, and they don't mention Gar Wood. So the boat races somehow, for whatever reason, are just
Don't count.
or don't ever count to any of this stuff.
And this is the
Detroit-
Hydroplane History homepage.
What I'm
Hydroplane
saying
History
is-
homepage.
what I'm
like
saying is, like-
lesliefield.com if somebody's looking for it.
Well, what I'm
Just
saying
citing
is
sources.
though, is that all, like, if you look
Yeah.
at, if you do a Google search of largest sporting events ever,
Yeah.
they list all these things like wrestling events, Indy 500, all these different things.
Wrestling. Might as well. A lot of people saw Hamilton too.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But here's the thing. But
Like,
what I'm
that's
saying is-
real.
But here's the
Sorry.
thing is that some of the largest, some of the
I have
largest,
luchadors out there waiting for me.
some of the largest, if not the largest, sporting events ever took place in Detroit.
Yes.
Where is any mention or anything about it?
No.
Even you mentioned that a 75 or it was a
76,
76 race, on the Gold Cup. That drew a ton of people. Where's the mention of that on any Guinness Book of World Records or SeatGeek or any of these other sites? Where? Like, that's what I'm trying to say. That
Well, here's the thing.
That's been marginalized.
Because a lot
just
of
like
this was free. A lot of the shoreline is free, so they're not charged.
I guess
tickets.
maybe that's the case.
Maybe
but,
that's tickets. Maybe
Well,
that's
but the thing
sold.
is-
Tickets sold.
But even
all
Jay Lee
that
Barrett
mighty
himself,
dollar.
Jay Lee Barrett himself said that they had actual people on the edges of
Yep.
every single area with little clickers,
Holy
keeping
crap.
track of the fans, and they got to 600,000 and basically just lost track. But in the race, but what we're leading up to, this is kind of like the final element of my notes. I have to say here is that the rematch is going to be huge. The rematch and the stories that we got to follow are going to be epic. In the 600,000, just by putting the thought in your mind as the listener or the viewer that 600,000 of this race we just got done talking about at least is in the conversation for the largest sporting event that ever took place, that ever happened. Right, 600,000. This race is going to be dwarfed by the next race.
Holy crap!
This race is going to be dwarfed by the next race.
Okay.
In the next race, the Miss America 10, the Miss England 3.
Even if we got to take a week or two off, we got to do this next one with the Miss America 10.
It's got to be the Miss America 10.
Maybe not in the Miss America 10.
It's got to be in the Miss America 10.
with the Miss America.
With the America.
I'm going
in.
with.
I'm going in.
If we can get in,
You can sit on the outside of it. I'll sit in the boat, and I'll have the microphone.
If we can get in, I'll get in.
I'll be sitting in the boat.
I don't
want to
push. I got respect.
You don't want to sit in the cockpit of Miss America 10?
totally want to.
You can sit in Orland Johnson's
I'm a realist.
spot. I got the steering wheel.
I
got this. I got Gar Wood's wheel.
I'm bringing
got
you.
Orland
I'm bringing you a
Johnson.
big teddy bear outfit.
No,
I'm telling
that's
you
not
right now.
happening. Gar Wood would never want me to wear a teddy
You would
bear
totally.
outfit. I have a feeling that
You would look good in it.
No, I wouldn't.
You just need some ears.
Gar Wood would
You're
never.
a big huggable teddy bear as you are.
Gar Wood would never. Gar Wood would never want me to be telling his story in a teddy bear outfit. Some reference to the teddy bears would be appropriate, but not actually wearing.
You know what? I think he'd probably laugh.
And I'm already calling the steering wheel. I get to sit in Gar Wood's seat.
All right.
You got Orland Johnson.
You got it, man. That guy, he took a
Johnson was badass.
took a cut to the jugular and
many things.
Said, "When
Wait
can I
till you
go
hear what's going to happen to Orland next
Oh,
week, dude.
no.
The next episode, Orland goes through it again.
Holy
Even
crap.
probably as bad or worse.
Holy crap! All right, so you said, "Oh, this is going to be one episode." I'm cutting this into two.
Well, it
so
might
thanks
have
for
to be.
joining us for the second part of this
it might
episode.
have to be. What is it? 2 hours?
We're an hour
Jeez.
32.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's no way it could have been a little 30-minute episode. There's no
we
way.
wandered around a little bit too.
Yeah, but I think we did all right. We do our thing.
Appreciate
man.
it. And appreciate everybody who've stuck around this long. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We've been there before. Do all those.
DetroitCityChampions.com. We're also going to be doing, and also we're going to be doing. We have stickers. We have like a Teespring store.
Wearingfunny.com.
It's
going to be. It'll all be it. Chris is taking care of that, and it's all.
We got stickers. We got the We got the crest that we're going to be talking about.
Wearingfunny.com.
Awesome. The crest is the coat of arms is awesome.
It's beyond it.
It's so cool.
I like it so much.
Jamie's
I'm going to get it inked on my body.
Inked on his body.
I will get it inked on my body. I like it that much. So, all right, like, subscribe, leave a comment, and tell some friends. Charles, I appreciate
Jamie,
you. Cheers,
I
man.
pleasure. I love doing this show, man.
Let's put it up on the hoist for a couple of days, and we'll be back.